Okay, so picture this. You've got the small country, right? Not exactly making headlines every day. And then boom, it explodes onto the global energy scene.
Yeah, like out of nowhere, right?
It's kind of wild, and that's exactly what's happening with Guyana, this
Yeah.
South American nation. I mean, it's been going through this crazy fast transformation, and it's got everyone talking.
Energy experts, policymakers, you name it. Everyone's watching Guyana right now.
And for good reason, too. I mean, think about it. Just a few years back, Guyana was mostly known for its rainforests, right? Like vast stretches of untouched nature.
Yeah, the Amazon basin, all that.
Exactly. And now it's poised to become a major player in global oil production. I mean, talk about a plot twist.
Yeah, it's a pretty remarkable shift when you think about it.
And at the heart of this whole story, at the heart of this energy revolution, are the deepwater oil discoveries made by who else? ExxonMobil. And that's what we're diving into today.
We've got some really interesting sources here laying out not just the oil operations themselves, but the wider ripple affects the geopolitical implications. It's a big deal.
And for all of you listening in today, that's our mission in this deep dive. We're going to unpack just how much this massive oil find is reshaping the region and beyond.
We're talking energy markets, the Guyanese economy, international relations, the whole 9 yards.
We're going to break it all down based on what our sources are telling us. But before we get too deep into the weeds, we got to talk about the sheer scale of this discovery.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the numbers are staggering. Almost 11 billion barrels of oil found back in 2015.
11 billion with a B.
Yeah, that's not just some small bump in global reserves. That's a whole new source of oil coming online.
Yeah.
And that's a game changer.
It completely flips the script. And what blows my mind even more is how fast Guyana has ramped up production.
From 0 to 60 in like no time flat.
It's become the world's fastest growing oil producer in under 10 years. I mean, that's practically unheard of.
It's an incredible trajectory.
So let's rewind a bit and zero in on ExxonMobil's role in all of this. Their entry into Guyana really set this whole chain of events in motion.
Yeah, if we want to understand the magnitude of what's happening, we got to lay out the timeline. First, you have that initial discovery back in 2015, a watershed moment.
And then just a few years later, look where we are.
ExxonMobil, along with their partners Hess and CNOOC, they're already churning out something like 650,000 barrels of oil per day.
Every single day. And it sounds like that's just a taste of what's to come, right? The projections are pointing way up.
Oh, yeah. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Output's expected to double by 2027. Think about that for a second.
Double the current production. It's mind-boggling.
And if we zoom out and look at the big picture, global forecasts are saying that Guyana is on track to lead global oil production growth by 2035.
That's less than 15 years from now.
It's a fundamental shift in the global energy landscape.
It's like the tectonic plates of the energy world are shifting beneath our feet. And with Guyana's rapid ascent like this, it puts them, and by extension, ExxonMobil in a very strategic position. Especially when you consider the interests of the United States.
Yeah, you can't talk about this without talking geopolitics.
Oh.
Guyana's partnership with ExxonMobil, it ticks a lot of boxes for long-standing U.S. objectives.
Like what?
Well, for starters, it helps ensure reliable access to global energy resources. It's a big win for U.S. energy security.
Gotcha. So the U.S. is looking for dependable sources of oil, and Guyana fits the bill.
Exactly. And then there's the whole geography piece. Guyana's location, it's strategically important.
Fill me in on that. What makes its location so special?
Well, look at who Guyana's neighbors are. He's got Venezuela, Brazil, Suriname.
Okay, I see it on the map. It's right there in the thick of things.
And in a region that's seen its share of political instability, Guyana stands out as relatively stable.
That's got to be a major plus for any company operating there, right? Predictability, stability, all that good stuff.
Exactly. And it becomes even more significant when you contrast it with a country like Venezuela,
where their oil sector has been hit hard by all those U.S. sanctions and the internal political turmoil.
It's night and day. While Venezuela's oil production has really struggled, ExxonMobil is going strong in Guyana, and their presence is only growing.
With President Ali fully backing the oil industry, it's like they've found this solid foothold in a pretty turbulent region.
It's a strategic win for both Guyana and the U.S. It essentially locks in a massive new oil reserve under the control of an American corporation.
Wow, so you're saying Guyana's oil is essentially helping the U.S. maintain its energy dominance?
In a way, yeah. It's definitely a factor in the global energy chess game. But all this rapid development, it's not happening in a vacuum, right? We've got to talk about the elephant in the room and the environmental concerns.
Yeah, we can't ignore that. I mean, we're talking about huge economic growth fueled by oil extraction.
And that inevitably raises questions about the environmental impact. especially when you consider what Guyana is known for its rainforests.
Those incredible rainforests that cover something like 90% of the country?
Yeah, and those forests, they're not just beautiful. They're a vital carbon sink. They absorb more carbon dioxide than they release, which means they're crucial for fighting climate change.
So you've got this push for oil extraction happening right alongside these crucial ecosystems. How do you balance that?
It's a tough question,
Mhm.
and it's a debate that's happening globally. How do you balance the need for energy with the urgency of climate action?
It's like this constant tug of war, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And the Ali administration, they seem to be arguing that they can do both. They can pursue economic development through oil while still upholding their climate commitments.
It's a bold claim for sure.
It is. And it's an argument we hear a lot in energy circles. There's this emphasis on ensuring a stable and dependable energy supply.
Which Guyana is certainly contributing to now.
No doubt. But it also leads us to one of the most hotly debated aspects of this whole situation, the production sharing agreement itself.
All right, let's unpack this agreement.
Yeah.
Because I've heard it's been a major source of controversy.
Yeah, it's definitely raised eyebrows, and for good reason. The 2016 agreement between Guyana and ExxonMobil, it's got some pretty unique features.
So give me the rundown. What makes it so different?
Okay, so first off, it allows ExxonMobil to recover a big chunk of their initial investment costs from the oil revenues before any profits are split. We're talking up to 75%.
75%. That's a pretty hefty chunk.
Yeah, it's on the high end compared to agreements in other countries that are just starting out with oil production, where you might see something more like 50 to 70%.
So ExxonMobil gets to recoup a large portion of their investment before the profits are even on the table.
Exactly. And then once those costs are covered, the remaining profits are split 50-50 between the Guyanese government and the ExxonMobil-led consortium.
Okay, so equal shares after the initial cost recovery.
Plus, Guyana gets a 2% royalty on top of that.
So a small percentage up front and then half the profits once ExxonMobil's made back their investment.
That's the basic structure. Now, even President Ali himself, he's admitted that the original deal isn't perfect.
So he sees the flaws, but he's sticking with it.
His argument is that changing the agreement now could spook investors and create instability. And that could jeopardize Guyana's economic progress.
It's like choosing the devil, over the devil you don't.
In a way,
Yeah.
it's a calculated risk.
Yeah.
They're prioritizing predictability for investors.
Makes sense. And I'm guessing ExxonMobil is perfectly happy with the current arrangement.
Well, they defend the contract pretty vigorously. They say the terms were globally competitive, especially back in 2016, when Guyana was just starting its oil journey. It was a riskier investment for them.
So they're saying they deserved a sweeter deal for taking that gamble.
And they also emphasize the financial benefits Guyana is already reaping, about $1 billion a year going straight into government coffers.
Not to mention the $6.2 billion sitting pretty in their sovereign wealth fund.
It's a lot of money on paper. But that's where critics like Melinda Janke come in.
She's the international lawyer, right?
Yeah, she's been very vocal about this whole thing. Her main argument is that this agreement gives ExxonMobil way too much control over a crucial public resource.
Guyana's oil.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she's also worried about the environmental risks. What happens if there's a major oil spill?
She's not convinced that Guyana is adequately protected.
And she's not just talking. She's taking action. She spearheaded this legal challenge that led to a court ruling imposing unlimited liability on ExxonMobil for any oil spill.
So if something goes wrong, ExxonMobil's on the hook for all of it.
That was the ruling. But it's important to note that it's under appeal. So it's not a done deal yet.
It's still playing out in the courts.
Oh.
But this whole legal battle, it really highlights the deep divisions and concerns about whether this agreement is truly in Guyana's best interests.
It raises questions about fairness, about environmental safeguards. It's a big deal.
So on one hand, you've got the government and ExxonMobil pointing to the economic benefits, the money flowing into Guyana. And then on the other hand, you've got these strong voices raising the alarm bells about potential downsides.
It's a classic resource curse dilemma, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you manage this sudden wealth responsibly?
And how do you make sure it benefits the entire population, not just a select few?
That's the million-dollar question.
Speaking of the population, let's shift gears and talk about the impact on the ground. How is this economic boom affecting everyday Guyanese people?
Well, on paper, things look pretty rosy. Guyana's GDP growth is through the roof. We're talking over 33% growth in 2023, and forecasts are predicting even higher growth in 2024.
That's insane. I mean, any economist would drool over numbers like that.
Yeah, it's a remarkable boom.
Yeah.
But the reality is often a bit more complicated. The classic issue with resource-driven growth is that it doesn't always translate into a better life for everyone.
So not everyone's feeling the positive effects.
Exactly. Inflation has also been on the rise. It hit 6.6% in 2023. And a lot of Guyanese people are reporting that basic necessities like food and housing have become way more expensive.
So their money isn't going as far as it used to.
It's this disconnect between the macro-level economic indicators and the individual lived experiences.
Yeah, you can have all this impressive GDP growth, but if people are struggling to put food on the table, something's not adding up.
It's a pattern we've seen play out in other places that have experienced these sudden resource booms.
It's like the classic resource curse scenario, right?
Yeah, you get this influx of wealth, but it doesn't always trickle down to the people who need it most.
And that's exactly what Wintress White from Red Thread was talking about.
That quote about the money not reaching the masses.
It's a stark reminder that economic growth doesn't automatically translate into shared prosperity.
Even with those eye-popping GDP figures, there's a real concern in Guyana about growing inequality and whether the benefits of this oil wealth are being distributed fairly.
So how is ExxonMobil responding to these concerns about the local impact?
They're touting their investments in local businesses, which they say total about $2 billion. They also highlight the creation of around 6,200 jobs for Guyanese workers.
Okay, so they're creating jobs and injecting money into the local economy.
Yeah, and they've also funded community projects to the tune of $43 million.
So they're trying to show that they're making a positive contribution at various levels.
That's their argument.
Yeah.
But there's still this underlying skepticism among a lot of Guyanese people.
They're not entirely convinced that the average citizen is benefiting as much as the big corporations.
It goes back to that fundamental tension that resource-rich developing nations often grapple with.
How do you balance attracting foreign investment with ensuring that your own people benefit?
It's a delicate balancing act, for sure.
And to make things even more complicated, we can't forget about the geopolitical wild card in all of this, the tensions with Venezuela.
Oh yeah, that adds a whole other layer of complexity to the mix.
So remind me, what's the deal there?
Venezuela has this long-standing territorial claim over the Essequibo region of Guyana.
Which just so happens to be where a big chunk of Guyana's offshore oil reserves are located.
Exactly. So you can see why this is a sensitive issue. It injects a lot of uncertainty into the whole equation.
And the U.S. has firmly planted its flag in this dispute, haven't they?
Oh yeah. Washington's made it very clear that they support Guyana's sovereignty over the Essequibo region.
No ambiguity there.
It further solidifies Guyana's alignment with U.S. strategic interests in the region.
So Guyana's security and its oil future are becoming increasingly intertwined with the United States.
It's all connected. So where does that leave us? We've got this incredible transformation happening in Guyana, driven by these massive oil discoveries.
A transformation that's catapulted them onto the global energy stage.
With ExxonMobil playing a leading role and the U.S. watching very closely.
But it's not all sunshine and rainbows, right?
Not at all.
Yeah.
There are some serious environmental considerations to grapple with. And there's a lot of debate about whether the oil wealth is being shared equitably.
Plus, you've got this geopolitical pressure from Venezuela looming over everything.
It's a complex web of factors all intertwined. And the long-term consequences for Guyana are still very much unfolding.
So for everyone listening, as you process all of this, as you consider this incredible story unfolding in Guyana, what do you think are the most significant long-term consequences for its economy, its society, and its environment?
How will this influx of wealth shape Guyana's future?
And what can we learn from Guyana's experience?
How can other resource-rich developing nations navigate these challenges and ensure that their natural resources benefit their entire population?
It's a question worth pondering. It's a story that challenges us to look beyond the headlines and grapple with the complex realities of resource extraction development and geopolitics.
It's a story that's still being written.
And we'll be watching closely to see how it all